Drug violence in Mexico has taken the lives of more than 60,000 people in the last 6 years. There are signs now that the violence may have peaked and is in a downturn, according to a new report from the University of San Diego's Transborder Institute. Octavio Rodriguez, who co-wrote the report, joins me now. Octavio, where has the violence gone down and by how much?
The best example of the decreasing in violence is Ciudad Juarez. Ciudad Juarez has been the most violent city for the last 5 years. And from 2011 to 2012, it decreased around 40%.
And when we are talking about violence, we're talking about homicides, we're talking about murders, correct?
Correct. The best way and the most feasible way to measure violence is through homicides, and that's why we measure the decreasing in the overall rate of homicides.
And Tijuana, which is just across the border, what about violence there? What about murders there? Have they gone down at all?
Well, Tijuana was the second most violent city in 2007, and now it's number 8. So the rate has decreased surprisingly a lot, and things are going much better down there.
So there has also been an increase in violence in other parts of Mexico City, or actually Mexico. What has happened there?
One of the most important characteristics of this new wave of violence in Mexico is the way they're shifting, and the violence is shifting. And violence has moved to some other areas, not the traditional northern border states as it was in the past, and now in places such as the city of Monterrey or the touristic spot of Acapulco in the Pacific Coast. Especially in the Pacific Coast, states as Michoacán, Jalisco, and Guerrero has seen increasing violence in the last 2 and 3 years.
Okay, so what do you attribute both the downturn in violence in places like Ciudad Juarez and Tijuana, and then the upsurge in homicides in other areas?
Well, one of the hypotheses, and I think that's one of the most reliable ones, is that the strategy of the previous administration in cracking down cartels have created splinter groups from it that operates in different areas, and of course because they're smaller, they're less predictable and more violent, and they're moving and they're controlling smaller areas, but also with more amount of power. And that's why we've seen violence moving from one state to another.
Now, cracking down on the drug cartels was the hallmark of former Mexican President Felipe Calderón. The new president, Enrique Peña Nieto, has said that his focus is going to be on crime prevention. What does that mean within the context of drug cartels, drug violence? And is that in any way code for looking the other way?
So President Peña Nieto said, of course, he was going to focus more on prevention of crime, and he pointed out that his administration was going to attack 3 crimes that he considers the most harmful to Mexican society. That is extortion, kidnapping, and homicide. The difference with this administration is that they're not going to put as much attention in cracking organizations and, of course, in informing about violence. But and he has mentioned that the strategy is going to keep the same, at least for the first 3 or 4 years.
Octavio, I want to talk to you about actually getting these figures. How difficult is it to track drug violence?
It has been very difficult. Mexican government released some preliminary data last year, but last year they said they're not going to do that anymore, or they weren't going to do that anymore because they considered that as a sensitive information, and it was dangerous to put that on the access of the public. So
what's happening here? Is the Mexican government trying to change the narrative?
Well, it was the previous government that actually stopped releasing that data, and now the new government is saying that they're gonna try to put attention in some other positive things. What I think they're trying to do is to at least keep the attention out of the problem while they're trying to solve it.
Octavio Rodriguez, thank you for coming in
Thank you
today.
very much.